Welcome back to The Perspective. Chairman, you mentioned in an article here with Nikkei Asian Review, you pointed out of the similarities between President-elect Donald Trump with that of President Jokowi, the qualities, their background. And you're also one of the most optimistic person when it comes, when we talk about the topic on TPP, Indonesia's plan on getting on board, and Donald Trump's first move when he gets into the White House is to walk out of TPP.
Right.
Your view on this?
Well, I think we have to see what happens next with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The TPP consists of 12 member countries, and the USA is one of them. We have to see first whether the other 11 countries decide to continue with TPP without the USA.
Right.
Right. It's unfortunate, I would say, that the US has decided to walk out of TPP, but it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Right. The USA is still very much part of the world economy. They're still a huge importer and a huge exporter. They're an even bigger investor. Right. The dollar is the de facto currency for most of the world's trade and investment. However, I think clearly the election of Donald Trump shows that there are segments of American society who are deeply unhappy with the way things were going. Yeah. Now, the numbers support those people. Over the last 10 to 15 years of American economic development, the rich have gotten richer, and frankly, the bottom 70% of the American people have seen their income stagnate. Right, so clearly something is not right. Again, it's unfortunate that the object of their fury has become, among other things, free trade. Now, for us, the picture is very, very different. It's very clear that every segment of society, from the top to the bottom, has benefited from trade and investment, right? The people on the ground, in the field, can see factories going up, with the nameplates of international companies. Right? International companies are opening factories and opening retail stores and opening, job opportunities. So it's a very different situation in emerging markets or in developing countries. And that's why I think around Southeast Asia, and in fact around third world countries, you see very strong public support for trade and investment. Now, you're right. It's funny. A couple of weeks ago, actually, President Jokowi spoke by telephone to President Trump.
With President Trump?
For about 5 or 6 minutes. And based on what the president told me, it did strike me that the chemistry between the two heads of state is very good. I do think both are lifetime business people. I think both are very straight talking and very straightforward and very practical. Obviously quite different personalities, but I can sense that the two gentlemen respect each other and can find common ground. So personally, I feel like I want to acknowledge that there is a real basis for the anger that many Americans feel, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is their incomes have stagnated, right? So we've got to do something about it. On the other hand, I remain optimistic that our trade and investment, both with the USA and with other parts of the world, will continue to grow and continue to deepen. But yeah, we do have to give a bit more thought to those segments of society in the USA and the West that feel, probably rightly, that they've been neglected and have seen their income stagnate.
And which also you pointed out that, like you said, TPP is not the end of the world, and maybe it's time for Indonesia to look out to other bilateral trade agreements. It exists. There's just an ample of opportunities out there. I'm also seeing a similarity or common ground between Trump and Jokowi is that their initial inward foreign policy when they take office, they're looking inward, and they're just as Jokowi, he
Right.
wants to focus on what is going on in the country, not only after he realizes that, okay, we can't do this alone, we need investors, right? Now, do you think, as opposed to previous president, Barack Obama, whose Asia's pivot is very clear, sounding clear, do you think Trump will continue to foster this relationship between US and Asia, particularly
Right.
in this case, Indonesia?
Well, Florence, what's funny is a lot of times I feel that the best way we can contribute to the world is by fixing our internals, right? There's no use us going around the world wanting to help whatever, the Middle East process or OPEC or whatever, if our own house is not in order. We have to make sure that the Indonesian economy performs well, that we're creating jobs, that we have social harmony, then we can contribute to the world, right? Maybe we need to admit that America too can take a break, can focus domestically.
Being the most powerful
Exactly.
nation that globally is looking up to.
I think, again, we may have to admit that there are certain issues. I myself was surprised at the soaring cost of healthcare in the USA. And the US cannot be an effective locomotive for the world economy if they're suffering from a lot of internal domestic issues. So ironically, there are times when the best global leadership you can provide is to make sure that you fix yourself up internally. And maybe this is one of those times.
So we're looking forward into fostering a relationship between Indonesia and the
I have
US.
no
And
doubt.
you're quite optimistic about that as well.
I think so. I think so. I think, again, there are those segments of society in the West that feel left out, but there's also other very large segments of society that are very pro internationalism and pro trade and investment. In fact, there are certain polls that say majorities of the American public still support international trade, even free trade. But again, the segment of society that's angry is not small. Even if it were 30 or 40%, that's big. That's a lot of people. And I actually believe there are ways to make growth more equitable, right? To bring those people along, bring them on board. But maybe we do have to slow down a bit. Maybe we do have to look again how to make sure those people also benefit from international trade and investment.
And so we can look at a very good relationship, especially when the US is dependent so much on East Asia on export, and we having the US as our fourth biggest trade partner.
That's right. Also, the big American multinational companies now derive more than 50% of their revenues from outside the USA.
Right.
So, like I said, the USA is very much linked to the rest of the world. All the big companies from Boeing to Google to Facebook to Procter & Gamble, you name it. They're basically international companies. So I think, America will continue, and especially in this particular economic cycle, it's clear that the US, with their strong employment situation, and now with President Trump promising economic stimulus, we can expect the USA to once again be the locomotive that pulls along the rest of the world.
They just need time to reset itself before.
I think, yes, that's right. All right.
Thank you so much, Chairman Thomas Lembong from the Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, for your perspective on the current track on Indonesia's trade and investment. Thank you very much once again, and thank you for staying with us. I'm Florence Armein for The Perspective. I'll see you next time.